Hi, I'm Peter Cowan, the Bee Whisperer. I've had a video and showed you how to make sugar syrup in relatively small quantities. Well, the weather forecast now is for maybe 5 or 6 out of the next 10 days to be above 50 degrees, and that means it's time to start feeding bees with sugar syrup if you can or if you need to. I'm looking to stimulate my colonies for nuke production this year, so I'm going to start feeding sugar syrup this week. And I may have to stop if the weather gets cold again, but I'll start feeding a bit to stimulate things. I'll be going around putting pollen patties in as well. But I need to make a lot of sugar syrup then, and so that's what this gadget's for. I can make many gallons of sugar syrup very quickly with this. So I'll show you both what I do and how it's made. Basically, the mixer is in a 55-gallon drum, food grade plastic, and what it does, hopefully it's not going to drop the phone into the sugar syrup that's down there. I'll take this little paddle out of the way. Down in the bottom here we have a sump pump. You see that it's got a little ball valve here, a float valve, which I have taped upright so it's continuously turned on. So if it's plugged in, that pump turns on. That pipe, sump pump will suck from the bottom down on the base there and blow the sugar syrup up this tube, and you've got two options: a split out to a hose and a valve, or recirculating it, and that sends it back down and blows it so it circulates round in a circle there. It circulates round, and that mixes the sugar syrup. So I can put some warm water in there, turn the pump on, it'll start to circulate quite vigorously, then I start pouring in the sugar. And if you're making 1-to-1 sugar syrup, you can do it with just normal cold water. When I'm making 2-to-1 sugar syrup, I'll be using hot water where I can, because it makes it a lot faster. It'll still do it with cold water, but it'll take a good half hour or more of mixing. And I'm not such a patient person, and I want to make it done and move on to something else relatively quickly. So once again, this is a 3/4 horse sump pump. A 1/2 horsepower one is adequate for smaller quantities, but if you're looking to make 2-to-1 sugar syrup, the 3/4 horse seems to be better. I believe this is 2-inch piping splitting to 1.5 down to 1 inch up in delivery, and you'll see that this hose will come round, and I have a delivery output like this. So we'll show you it in action. Now, ideally I'd have this plumbed in so I could just turn the tap on and fill it up with hot water, but my barn's not laid out that way, so I've got to carry the water to the unit. So that's what I'll do. This is the most tedious part of the job, filling up my containers. One day I will plumb it in. Okay, now I have 15 gallons approximately of warm water, and I'll load it up. Okay, so we have 15 gallons of warm water placed in there, so now I will turn on the pump. So what's happening now is the water is getting circulated round and round and round as it gets sucked up through here. In fact, I'm going to turn this valve off because I don't need to have this on. So now it's entirely going round through here. And I can start to add the sugar. Getting my workout, 50-pound bag of sugar. Two. Basically, for every 5 gallons of water I put in 1 bag of sugar. That's going to give me a ratio of about 1.2 to 1 of sugar to water. So just a bit more than thin sugar syrup. And this mixes very effectively. If I pour it in at a slow, not a fast rate, but pretty fast, it'll mix pretty well as it goes. If you start to see the sugar piling up, then you slow down and mix it up a bit. As the sugar syrup gets thicker, it'll tend to float on the top, and so we don't pour it in quite so fast as causing a big jam in there. So that's one mixing up nicely. Am I doing a good job, Chloe? Am I doing a good job? Good. What do you think, Daisy? Yeah, doing a good job? Good. Very good. My helpers are here, just supervising. Okay, so that's mixing up nicely. Just to be sure that things aren't piling up at the bottom, use a little paddle. No, that's all mixing really well. Nothing accumulating at the bottom, so I'll pour in the last one. That cavitation sound is the sound of the sugar blocking up the sump pump a little bit, so I'll slow down. Right now everything in there is looking pretty milky as the sugar is in suspension. Just making sure there's no piles of sugar at the bottom, and there aren't. So I'll just let it mix up for a while. I would say it'd take about 5 minutes or so, and that'll be thoroughly mixed. The sugar will be dissolved. I'll have let's see how much I've got. Looking through it, it comes out to about here, so that's about 23 to 25 gallons. Let's see, I don't know if I showed you properly. Level is about here, so it's about 23 to 25 gallons of sugar syrup. Right? Yeah. Is that what it is? Thank you. She says it is. Is that what you say too? Good. So we'll let that mix for a bit while I get busy with my other stuff. I've moved my nukes in. 275 nuke boxes, and got some of my equipment loaded up, but today it's going to be all about getting ready for feeding. What I'm going to be doing over here is mixing up some more pollen substitute. Got a load of pollen substitute to get ready, bags of it here. These will be mixed up to make 100 pollen patties or so, because I managed to get pollen patties on 12 of my hives last week, but this week I've got another 100 or so that are going to need it. That's a lot of pollen patties. Now the sugar syrup is pretty thoroughly mixed now. You can tell it's mixed by the color of it. If I turn that off, it'll just look clear. You'll be able to go see right down to the bottom as the bubbles rise out of it. Now there's virtually no sugar undissolved in there. So we're ready to go. So, time to start turning it on, filling things up. So, first thing I'll do, that is open already. This fully, and then this I'm going to close down slightly. It's about halfway closed down now. See, this is filling up. It takes about 30 seconds to fill one of these up. So what I'm going to do is move this back here before I have a big spill. Point the camera down and we'll be able to see it take place. I don't fill them all up because that would be just too blinking heavy. So I put about 3.5 to 4 gallons into each one. When I can see it's near that point, switch this off. It'll drip a bit. To the next one, turn it on. So what would take me a long time mixing in a bucket, I used to do it in a 5-gallon bucket in that little paddle and stir it and stir it. That takes forever. This I can have it all done in 20 minutes or so. Now I've also, a friend of mine who made this mixer for me also made a storage tank that I can put on the back of the pickup with a hose to deliver it from the back of the pickup. But right now I'm just in between stages. I'm still find it quite convenient to do it in these smaller units. If I hurt my back, then I'm gonna get that thing on the pickup, and it'll be too late then.
Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
Good. Just 1 second.
Oh, take your time.
Filming a video here. And what I'll do, because I'm not going to use these today and it's quite cool in this room, I'm going to move these into the kitchen where I'm keeping it at about 70-75 degrees, and that will keep the sugar syrup nice and warm. Because at this time of year, the sugar syrup being warm makes all the difference as to whether the bees are going to take it right away, whether they have to wait for it to warm up. And given that we only have a few hours in the day where it's going to be warm enough for them to feed, I want it to be warm as soon as I put it out there in the feeders. At least that would be the case for outside feeding, which is what I'm going to be doing. I'm not going to be feeding the bees in the hive. I'm going to be feeding them outside the hive. All that filling there, you can see we're nearly empty now. See how it's recirculating that syrup as it goes. There's still roughly 5 gallons left in there, so it'll drain it until it starts sucking air. And once it starts sucking air, then I'll pull the plug to turn it off. Starting to suck air. I'll pull the plug now. And there we go. So now I've got six containers, each with about 4 gallons of sugar syrup. So now I've got 6 containers, each with about 4 gallons of sugar syrup, and we are ready to go and feed some bees. I'm nearly at my 1,000 subscribers mark. Much appreciate you subscribing to the channel, appreciate you liking it, and appreciate you sharing the video with others who might find these videos helpful. I'm Peter Cowan, the Bee Whisperer. See you next time.